All right. So, very welcome and happy to welcome Ole from a co-founder of Apollo Health Ventures, one of the biggest and best funds investing in longevity and also creating new
I can confirm that.
companies.
So maybe we can have an interactive discussion on how to invest in longevity. I think we have been the first fund focusing on longevity alone, and we are really focusing on the hallmarks of aging or the basic root mechanisms of aging. And what we want to see with the drugs that we develop or that we finance is that they can prolong a healthy lifespan. And before we invest, we also like to see that in animal models, at least. And of course, we need a strong mechanism and a strong argument why that would also work in humans. So our investment criteria is that we only develop drugs or finance drugs that have an effect on one of the basic root mechanisms of aging. So because otherwise, if you don't have like a very strict definition, you can say that everything is longevity, right? I mean, if you bring an oncology therapeutic on the market, it's also somehow longevity because people live longer with it. But I think every one of you knows the example. If you would bring a drug to the market tomorrow that can heal all the cancer in the world, people on average would only live 3.5 years longer, at least in the Western world, because people wouldn't die from cancer, but they would very soon die from other age-related diseases because all these age-related diseases have the same root mechanisms. And when you look at age-related diseases like diabetes, like cardiovascular diseases, like neurodegeneration, and so on and so forth, and you look at the risk curves, you can see that there's only a minor risk for people until they 63, 65, and then you can really see how all of these risk curves spike, and the spikes are very parallel. So, and this is because they all have the same root causes. So what we really have to do is that we go to the hallmarks of aging, to the root mechanisms of aging, and that we prevent these diseases. So, I mean, stuff we are working on is, for example, cleaning of senescent cells, activation of autophagy, epigenetic reprogramming, hormones, so really, really basic stuff. And if something, so there's one exception to this rule. We also like some bets in data platforms and biomarkers, because we think the biggest problem in the entire industry is that we don't have enough biomarkers. I mean, there are some good biomarkers for age-related disease. For example, there's long-term sugar for diabetes. So if my HbA1c is high, of course, I can see before I get diabetes, and I can also take preventative measures. Then, of course, for cardiovascular diseases, you have blood fat markers, which are very good. But for a lot of diseases, there are not very good biomarkers. For neurodegenerative diseases, for example, we don't have very good biomarkers. And so we also do these investments. So, for example, we have one longevity clinic as a portfolio company. It's not really a longevity clinic. It's more like a prevention clinic where you can do examinations for your biomarkers. But the idea behind it is, of course, we want to prevent diseases, and we want to offer very good service package for people who go there. But at the end, we want to collect data. And the problem is when you look at biomarkers and at data banks is that there's a lot of data out there, but these are not data from one individual that has been followed up for 10 years or something like that, that are only like one-time data, one-shot data. And of course, they are also predictive, but we think that they are general patterns when you develop diseases, but also individual patterns. And you need to understand both to really develop biomarkers you can use at the end to develop medication. So this is our focus. We do, as I said, 80% therapeutics, really focused on the hallmarks of aging. And then we are not a normal VC that is only doing armchair investments. So 50% of what we are doing is company building, company formation. Why do we do that? There are a lot of reasons for it. So first of all, the problem was when we started in 2017, the longevity industry didn't exist at that time. So of course there were like companies on the market you would consider nowadays as longevity companies, but not many. So that means we had to develop companies ourselves because there were not enough investment opportunities. On the other hand, there were like a lot of technologies out there that looked very interesting and nobody wanted to commercialize them. The first company that we ever built was Aeovian. It was a spin-off from the Buck Institute. They're working on rapalogs, analogs to rapamycin. I think all of you, I think Aeovian, analogs to rapamycin. I think everyone is familiar with rapamycin, the best compound we know of to prolong healthy lifespan. I don't know if you've seen that around 2 months ago, the preliminary data from the University Austin in Texas came out because they have tested rapamycin. Are you all familiar with that, or some are not?
No, this particular study.
Okay, it's very interesting because a lot of people said rapamycin, yes, it works in worms, it works in mice, it works in rats, but it will never work in primates. And University of Austin, Texas, they started 5 years ago to dose non-human primates, marmosets actually, with rapamycin and placebo. And they, on a conference, they published the preliminary data, and they did it because now in the placebo arm, all the monkeys are dead, but not in the rapamycin arm. And they already see a healthy lifespan extension of 16%, but the study is still running, so it will be more. And what is also interesting is they see healthy lifespan extension, average lifespan extension, and maximum lifespan extension. This is very strong data. Usually when you test these drugs, you see, like maybe in one of the things you see an extension, but not in all of them. So, I mean, very, very serious drug. For longevity, problem is, so for example, do I take rapamycin? I don't take rapamycin. I know a lot of people take rapamycin, but my immune system is just not very good. I think it's genetical. So I fetch like all kind of infections all the time. And as you know, rapamycin is also suppressing the immune system. So it's not advisable for everyone to take rapamycin to prolong healthy lifespan. So I don't do that because I don't want to fetch even more infections. So, and what we did with Aeovian is that we developed compound groups, so analogs to rapamycin that are mTORC1 specific and not touching mTORC2. So keeping the beneficial effects of rapamycin without having most of the negative effects. And nobody was interested in that technology in 2017. And I mean, for us, it was so clear that this is a winner to invest in this field because, I mean, mTOR is one of the most important aging pathways. And I mean, we have been very successful with this company. In January of this year, the company got financed with 50 million from Sofinnova, Venbio, us, and Evolution. And they are now in the clinic in humans in 3 different continents. And it could be on the market as early as in 2 years because they have a fast track. They're going for rare disease. And I mean, this would be very exciting. So my expectation is that this drug can prolong healthy lifespan by 12%. And just imagine there's a drug on the market that can prolong healthy lifespan by 12%. I think could be a very big company, right? And could be very interesting. And I would take it because I would hope, and of course we have to test that it's not suppressing the immune system, so it would be very interesting. So yeah, so we do company building first of all because we saw a lot of low-hanging fruits that were not exploited by the market at that point in time. And then of course it also makes sense from a financial point of view. We get founder shares in the beginning. In the beginning, we have 100% of the company minus the founder shares for the scientific co-founders. And then when we do up-rounds with the company, of course, we also put money on the table, so that means we maintain big chunks of the company until later rounds. And every company that we build ourselves could be a fund returner. So we like that. Problem is, of course, that you have to put a lot of work into these companies, and that we need a much bigger team as a normal venture fund. And in the beginning, we also had to subsidize the fund with our own money because we didn't have enough money to pay the team. So, but other than that, I think it's a very good model doing company building, and we can of course also tap in opportunities no one is looking at the moment, but where we think that we really need to have companies there and technologies there to solve certain problems. Then also important, so I think we should talk about how to invest in longevity. What is very, very important for us is the US focus. I mean, we are based in Europe, but we have a strong US focus. Why do we have a strong US focus? We really believe in European science. We believe in the European ecosystem. I think we have also great scientists here, great talent. We have great CROs in Europe. But what we don't have is the money for later funding stages. It's just not there in Europe. And the problem is if you build, in the beginning, European syndicates, you will need more money at one point. You will have to turn to pharma or to US VCs. And they will see that no one on the cap table can do the round alone. And they will tell you that they want to invest into the company, and they will show you the terms, and you can take it or leave it, but you will get a haircut. So we don't like that. What we want to do is, or what we are doing is that we have people with very deep pockets from the beginning on the cap table, which is preventing us getting a haircut. And that means when we do external investments, so companies that we not build ourselves, we either have US investors on board or big pharma. We also do a lot with pharma. Also in our new fund, Eli Lilly is one of the cornerstone investors. Or we have US VCs on board, or we work with players like Mubadala. So other big groups who have a big network, who have a lot of money. And what we also do when we build companies in Europe, before a Series A, we get American management into the companies, and then we move the company partly or entirely to the US to have access to the US market capital-wise. And this has worked quite well in the past, and I think it's a strategy to go. So, I mean, of course, also our team members, we spend a lot of time in the US to connect with VCs, with companies, with pharma companies, and so on and so forth. So maybe this as a background, and now we can have an open discussion. You can ask me what I think is interesting, what you're investing into, and so on and so forth.
So I'll have you first. I'll go first with you.
Yeah, sure.
I take that privilege. So regarding this Euro versus US, you're saying, okay, if you invest in external companies from Europe that have some other investors as well on the cap table, those won't be able to follow on. What if you have European companies that have US investors? That's more rare, or?
I think that's more rare, yeah, to have European companies that have US investors already on board. But when we want to invest into these companies and then they don't have US investors, of course we talk to US investors and ask them if they want to syndicate with us on a deal. And it's also a good test, right? Do we get attention? Do we get interest for the company? If we are the only ones that want to invest, it's maybe not a good sign, right?
Yeah.
It's maybe not a good investment opportunity.
Or
we are smarter
contrarian and bright.
Usually you are not smarter than the market, right? So sometimes you are, but usually not. So if there are good reasons why, so for example, very often US investors don't want to invest because it's too early for them, that totally makes sense. We only have a $180 million US
also
dollar
it's
fund.
longevity, it's a very different paradigm.
Absolutely, if that is the reason, but then we would ask them, when would you invest at which stage, what kind of data the company has to show to get you on board. So we ask these questions. If we get good answers if they say no, we would never ever invest because we don't think it makes sense, it's a bad sign. If they say, oh no, if you file for IND, you can contact us, and when we see efficacy in at least one animal model or something like that, and you have good tox data, it's super interesting, and we would definitely consider an investment. Then it's a different story, right?
Yeah. Okay. You touched on this efficacy on animals, which is bothering me so much because you have so many false positives and false negatives.
Yeah.
Why do investors care so much about efficacy in animals?
The thing is,
especially for like Alzheimer's, like what?
Yeah, I know. Like cancer and Alzheimer's has been healed a few thousand times already in mice, but it hasn't translated. Still, I think, yeah. No, I think still, still you need the data for FDA approval. There are some exceptions now, but you still need animal models, especially for tox data. And so it's an important milestone for them.
Tox, I get it. You don't give people something you didn't at least see if it kills.
The problem is, you can ask the question, how much of that is translatable into humans, right? But how many times does it work that something is not showing any efficacy in animals, and then it's showing efficacy in humans? Nobody knows that. That's the
Exactly.
problem, I
That's
think.
a huge
Yeah.
problem.
That's a big problem. I mean, but I think it has changed. So a lot of tests are already done in human cell lines, and organoids are coming big. And I think this is a very good, a very good trend.
Animal-free precision medicine
yes,
is
absolutely.
something really interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, when you're talking about your internal venture studio companies, you used to just fund them yourself and then look for investors, right? And now you're
No, we also syndicate in the
Now
very
you-
beginning.
y-
Yeah.
but you're looking exclusively to always syndicate from the beginning, or
I mean, it really depends on the company. The problem is in biotech, a lot of people are asking us about what is our strategy and what kind of stuff are we investing, what kind of data do we want to see, and so what kind of exit channels we want to see, and so on and so forth. But the problem in biotech is there's never a one-fits-all approach. It's very, very dependent on the company because every company is different. And with some companies, it's better to do an IPO. With other companies, it's better to sell to pharma. I think you have to have a plan in the beginning. Very often that changes. So, and that's why. So it also depends. So I mean, we like to syndicate in the beginning because when you do the investment alone, you have to do the entire fundraising. You can ask no one for his opinion. When it comes to hiring, you have to do it yourself, and so on and so forth. We really like to split the work. But when we think that it's very interesting, it doesn't need too much money. Of course, we would also do it alone. But we would at least we would talk to other groups and would ask them when would they join, what kind of data would they like to see, and because you always need to syndicate. You never, I mean, no fund can bring a company to the market with its own money. So you always need people who put money in. You always have to talk to other people.
to be fair, though, if you create something that's amazing, of course people will want to invest. So you don't necessarily. I don't. Like if I was naive, I wouldn't worry. I would be like, just build something amazing, and they will come. And I don't need to ask anyone. But of course, it's good to ask for many opinions. But it could be your internal fund having a bunch of reviewers, experts on the scientific advisory board, right? And do you do that, by the way? Do you ask external researchers, especially when it's something in their area, like I don't know, let's say Vadim Gladyshev or.
Absolutely, we do that. I mean, before we do an investment, we talk to a lot of KOLs. KOLs are first and foremost scientists who are working on similar technologies. We also talk to other investors, what they think about the technology. And what is also very important, I mean, I think the most dangerous competitors are competitors that are working on a totally different technology but solve the same problem. And you also have to find these ones, which is very hard. But we try to do that. So, for example, you have a gene editing company that is solving a specific problem, and you're looking at all the gene editing technologies, which is best, and so on and so forth. But then there's a company who's doing the same with small molecules.
Yeah.
That would be a problem because small molecules are much safer and much easier to develop, usually. And
Why are they much safer?
because you have target effects with gene therapy still. And I think it's still not a very safe technology, especially not if you do it in vivo, right? I mean, if you take the cells out, you manipulate them, you test them before you put them back into the body, yeah, safe. But gene editing in the body, tricky.
Cool. So usually in tech, it used to be that there were a lot of venture studios. Used to be also that VCs would come in, replace the CEO and all that. And it didn't, then it kind of, there was this movement of founder-led and now most programmers, they become the CEO and it's not incubated usually by a venture studio. But in biotech, it still remains. It seems like it's kind of the best way.
I think it's because, I mean, in tech, you have companies like Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg was founding this company as a student, and he's still the CEO of the company. In biotech, this is pretty hard, right? Because you need so different expertise to get the company through all the stage until you are at the market, right? You have like people who are very good at setting up companies. You have people who are very good at the preclinical phase. You have CEOs which are good at the clinical phase. Then you are good. Then there are CEOs who are good at pre-IPO. Then you have CEOs which are good at commercializing a product. So, and I mean, this is even like preclinical and clinic is very, very different. So usually in biotech companies, the CEO or like people in the senior management team, they change anyways at one point. And that's why it's not so important that you have founder-led companies.
There is, though, a movement of founder-led biotech. Have you looked into it a bit?
The thing is, I mean, I believe, for example, I mean, scientific founders who find compounds or develop technologies, they are very good at what they are doing. But they are usually not good at drug development. There might be exceptions to the rule, but usually they are not very good at drug development. They are not very good at business. So I'm not such a big fan.
Yeah, but programmers weren't good at business, right, before, and then now it seems this argument was used in tech, right, saying programmers are not very good at business, but you know they kind of had to learn, and it did work out.
I mean, maybe
pretty
let's see.
I wonder if
let's see how it develops.
Yeah.
But so I like people who are specialized in specific things, and I don't think that it is bad if you at one point replace people in the senior management team.
Right. Last one, we're here gathering to basically build a revolution, do things in a different way, create a new society that is aligned on accelerating medicine, self-experimentation, medical freedom, creating warp speed drug development. Are you considering these alternative ways, special jurisdictions where things are kind of done in a vertical manner really fast, just trying to create something for aging that is given to humans much faster than usual, so removing a lot of the usual red tape with regulations? How are you thinking about these kinds of things? Even though you eventually, of course, want to be go through the FDA, be on the big markets, maybe that data, how would you see the data of a community that self-experiments with some novel therapies? Would that give you more confidence to invest in it, to take it through the FDA maybe?
I mean, maybe it would give me more confidence to invest into it, but I would no one advise to do experimental therapies on himself. And I think, I mean, a lot of people are, I mean, they don't like the FDA because it's complicated and they have so much concerns and so on and so forth. But the thing is, I mean, there's a reason why we have the FDA, and I think it's good that we have the FDA and that we have the EMA in Europe. And of course, but I mean, the thing is, they are also very adaptable, right? So for example, they already accept organoids or cell lines instead of animal models now. Then through the trial of near Baselai, they have accepted that aging is not a disease, but that aging is the biggest risk factor for each and every disease out there. So I think they adapt to scientific progress. And I don't have such a bad opinion about the FDA and the regulatory administration in that regard. I mean, in other regards of the economy I have, but not. I can't really say anything bad about the FDA, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll send you a book and we'll talk more about the FDA. I really. Anyway, cool. So, any questions from? Yes.
So, whoever asks a question, can use this.
We can just go from left to the right.
Yeah, let's start from the question about bottlenecks. What do you think are the bottlenecks today? What would you do if you were a founder? What company would you build?
I mean, I can tell you what kind of topics I think are interesting. So I still believe that mTOR and everything on Rapalox is very interesting and a low-hanging fruit to prolong healthy lifespan. And then the other thing I'm very excited about is autophagy, because if you look, autophagy is correlated almost with each and every age-related disease, or the decline of autophagy is related to it. These are very interesting topics. Then I think what is coming big is replacement technologies. Very often it's easier to replace an organ or a specific tissue instead of repairing it. Then I think neurodegeneration, everything regarding neurodegeneration is still very interesting. Also, I mean, if you want to keep one organ in a very good shape, I think you should first and foremost think about the brain, because I mean, if you're super fit, so on and so forth, but you just don't remember what you have done 10 minutes before, it's not fun, I guess. And bottleneck is in the entire industry. Yes. So bottlenecks are definitely biomarkers that I already mentioned, and then money. We still don't have enough money to develop all the technologies we should develop, right?
I agree with money, but I don't like. I would agree that biomarkers is a bottleneck, but it's a bad business. Like, how would you invest in good biomarker company? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I said we invest in data platforms, but you're right, it's tricky. It's tricky to market them. But I mean, if you have very good biomarkers that you can really use to develop drugs upon them, then it's a good business model. But to find them, it's very hard.
What's your opinion? Like, you said about hallmarks, you probably misspoke that you call them mechanisms, though it's questionable whether or not they are actual mechanisms. We can definitely say they're hallmarks. But like, isn't it a dead end just focusing on these hallmarks and not exactly digging into a mechanism? Like, what's how do you understand whether you're going upstream or whether you're just going incremental with them? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Again, this is like super dependent on the specific mechanism, what makes sense or not. Sometimes if you go upstream or downstream, you have like side effects you don't want to have. So it's really dependent on a specific thing you're looking at. But of course, I mean, the thing is, I mean, this paper that came out that was called the Hallmarks of Aging, it's now like over 10 years old, and science has progressed since then. And of course, the problem when you just think about the hallmarks of aging is maybe there are new hallmarks we haven't thought about yet, and of course there could be in a blind spot because people think we have already figured it out, and I think we haven't figured it out yet. So the positive thing about the hallmarks of aging, about the paper, was that it drew a lot of attention to the space, and that it gave a structured view on aging. But of course, it shouldn't prevent you to do new research to explore other things, other hallmarks that are maybe not mentioned in the paper.
So thank you. So I see today that there are startups that have what 3 years ago would have been clear proof points that would be sufficient for a Series A round, but now because it's a downturn, I can see that those startups are not quite ready for a seed round. So I was wondering what's your take on when will this downturn end?
If I would knew that, I think I would have like a big competitive advantage. To be honest, I think we already see positive signs. There was like, I don't know, 2 months ago, a week where 3 biotechs went public in 1 week. And I mean, the stock market is doing well again, maybe not in biotech so much, but in general. I would hope that we already see next year more positive signals. And I think that the IPO window for biotechs will open up again 2026.
Thank you.
Hi. Are there any specific criteria you're applying during your due diligence that's different to the criteria using, like normal biotech VCs are using, besides that it has to target a root cause of a hallmark of aging?
Yeah, so usually we would like to see at least healthy lifespan expansion in an animal model. But other than that, we are focusing on these mechanisms. We want to see this animal data. Other than that, we invest like a normal biotech VC. And we have to invest like a normal biotech VC because we are syndicating with normal biotech VCs, and they want to see these things. And also, when we syndicate, we don't tell them a longevity story. We tell them this is a drug against disease X, Y, Z, and the business case makes sense, and that's why you should invest. We don't tell them this is a longevity drug. People will take that off label or something like that. That's not what we do.
Okay, so would you agree that someone with a biotech venture capital background is also suitable for a longevity fund, as
Of
long
course,
as they
yeah.
know about
Of
the
course, yeah.
companies? Okay.
Why don't you tell investors? Why don't you tell other syndicates?
Because they don't care. Normal biotech VCs don't care about longevity stories. They consider it sometimes even as fishy or as not serious. So
you have to have a surrogate indication.
of course, I mean you're not allowed. In Europe and in America, we have a Christian Jewish tradition. Aging is coming from God. Aging is not a disease. You can't develop drugs against aging. You always have to have an indication you're going for, and that's what we do.
Aren't you worried about mission creep for the company later if they get a lot of VCs on the cap table, a lot of money coming
Absolutely.
in, that then
Absolutely.
they pigeonhole the company into that specific disease and I was supposed to be label expansion and all these other diseases
Absolutely.
and actually target
It's a
aging.
constant fight.
So then isn't it better to filter a bit, especially if you have an awesome asset, just filter okay, just try at least to see who is more open-minded to this idea of longevity.
Of course we do that, but I mean at the moment the market or the capital is quite tight.
Beggars can't be choosers.
And I mean, it's still better to develop anything than to develop nothing, right? So, but I mean, of course we have these discussions, and of course we also want to do things that make sense. And if they make sense, you can also get agreement of other investors to do them, right? And I mean, we started at mission-driven, but we are a financial VC investor. Of course, we also have to act in the interest of our LPs, and our LPs, I mean, a lot of them are longevity enthusiasts, but of course they want to see a return, right?
Yeah. It's just sometimes you need to take a leap of faith, right? A lot of the innovations are not necessarily obvious, so you just convince people. It might be hard to convince people that don't get it, don't get this big vision, but.
Mm-hmm.
Is this on the same topic? Because I'm going to change topics. So you can if you want to continue the same.
So you said one of your interests in longevity right now is autophagy. Mm-hmm. So what is the hottest new research in terms of initiating autophagy other than fasting?
No, I really think, I mean, of course you can do fasting, I mean, but we develop drugs, right?
Yeah.
Drugs
So what is it with drugs?
I mean, we have a very interesting portfolio company called Samsara that have different compound groups that can activate autophagy in the brain, but also in the rest of the body. Of course, I can't tell any details on it.
That was the next question.
But for me, it's
off-camera details. Off-camera details.
I can't tell you, but I mean, you can look
a
at
little bit about how they do it. Like, how does the drug activate autophagy? Just like a little.
Yeah, maybe we can talk later about
Okay.
that.
Okay, Samsara.
Samsara, yeah, you can look it up.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So as you constantly connect yourself to the idea of the hallmarks of aging, I would love to know, what do you do personally, as a biohacker probably, to stop aging?
I mean, the first thing that I did is that I did a 23andMe and that I uploaded my data, so I got my raw data, I uploaded it to Found My Fitness, but I think there are other websites where you can do it, and got an entire risk report based on my genes. For example, so I have a very high risk of getting diabetes 2. So I think 70% or 68.5% with the who share my genes will get diabetes 2 until the age of 65. So of course I try to eat less sugar, I do sports, and I take low-dose diabetes drugs. So I take GLP-1 agonists, I take RKBOs to prevent that. Other than that, I do a lot of preventative examinations. So I check my long-term sugar regularly. I check my APO little A, APO little B, so blood fat markers. I check. Check my my artery in my neck, my carotid artery for plaques, like every 5 years, to see if there are already plaques and if I have maybe get on statins or something like that. I did a coloscopy like a few years ago to check for cancer. Of course, I do every 2 years at least. I check for skin cancer. So these are the things that I mostly do. Then I do intermittent fasting, so only eating for 8 hours a day. When I'm at home, I only eat vegetables, so I don't eat meat or something like that. So I try, but I mean, when I go out, I eat meat. I also try to cut on alcohol, so usually I don't drink alcohol, not during the week. On weekends, I drink alcohol with friends. And yeah, I try to do a lot of exercise, so I go hiking on the weekends, and otherwise I go to the gym. So I think both is important, muscles, but also endurance. And that are the things that I'm doing. So nothing crazy really, apart from diabetes drugs.
Did you ever think about plasmapheresis?
Yes, I think it's. There's a lab from Irina Convoy in Berkeley that showed very good data for it, I think it obviously is a good thing. We still don't really know why it is beneficial, and we have to find out what kind of blood factors are there or changed that it has a healthy effect. But I think it works, and we should find out what are the factors in the blood.
Thank you.
At which reason are you investing, and what are your process for going to the next phase, either by raising a new round or exiting a company? How do you see it, and do you believe exiting is to big pharma is a requirement for the type of companies that you invest in?
I mean, with some you can also do an IPO, but I mean an IPO in biotech is not always an exit channel. It's sometimes also just a financing instrument. But the thing is, I mean, we are a VC, so we really have a fund duration, and we have to sell the companies at the end of our fund duration. Some of the companies, of course, we would like to manage further and to have more influence on what they are doing. It's just a topic that Lawrence mentioned. But I mean, at the end, we are a financial investor, and as I said, we have to act in the interest of our LPs. So we have to maximize performance.
But it's no reason that is a bit longer than software companies or.
I mean, this is like a stereotype that, I mean, according to the EIF data, that is not true. Like the holding period, the average holding period for biotechs and tech companies is almost the same in this around 6.5 years.
Yep. Yeah.
Of course, it really depends on at which stage you are investing, right? But with our company building projects, of course, we have to keep an eye on the preclinical, clinical development path. If this path is short enough to be able to sell the company at the end of the fund.
Do you believe like the companies that you invest in can not exit? Or grow, or just
I mean, what you can also do is you can spin off single assets from a company and sell them to pharma, or do pharma collaborations that have a deal volume that you can also pay back your LPs, but usually you have to sell the companies.
Okay. Because you just cannot do the next phases yourself, or commercialization and massive testing.
I mean, first at one point, of course, yeah, rounds are getting too big, and we can't follow on, and we also have like a maximum that we can invest into companies. So this is sometimes an obstacle for us, of course, to invest in later rounds. And I mean, you need at the end, when you really want to bring a drug to the market, you need a lot of money to do so, right?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
But this is usually done by pharma companies.
Alexei?
I want to get back to the money bottleneck. Like, if you do good ROI, there is no problem, of course. It just
Absolutely, yeah.
people come to you,
Absolutely, yeah.
you are doing good investments. But how do we increase the total amount of money coming to the industry, not only for like investing wise, but also donation wise, opening new institute wise, in general, like or like how do we just stimulate more people, do it for the cause, not just for ROI?
No, I think it's coming. I mean, it's especially coming through the media. I mean, when we started in 2017, nobody was talking about this field. And if they were talking about this field, they were doing it in a negative way, like some crazy valley billionaires want to prolong their own life and only want to prolong the life for the rich, which is completely bullshit.
Yeah.
No one is doing that. I mean, even so,
Yeah.
also the funds are not doing it because, I mean, you want to have treatments that everybody can get, right? Small molecules, cheap production, cheap treatments that are there for the mass of people and not for single individuals. But this is changing, and I think now every newspaper or magazine is having stories about longevity. So I think you draw attention to the field, and you see, I mean, you also make sure that this is legit and that it is a worthwhile field. And then you have initiatives like the one from near Baselai, where I mean, you know about the metformin trial. I mean, but so I think it gave the FDA another perspective on aging and what aging is. So as I said, they accepted that aging is the biggest risk factor for almost each and every disease out there, which is very good because they really kicked off, I think, a change in how they think about it. And I think there are also initiatives for the politics. So my suggestion would be that you have to work like on, you know, like on a lot of different things and on a lot of different institutions to get more money into the space and more attention. But I think this is happening, right?
Yeah, well, you said about 2017. I was at Insilico in 2015, and I got strange looks, let's put it that way. But like a little bit of, let's put it, advertisement. We with Sasha are working on Longevity Economics Institute. We want to put more granular numbers on actual everything longevity, basically like pharmacoeconomics, but for specifically for longevity.
It makes total sense. I mean, from an economic point of view, it makes total sense. For every year that people are less sick at the end of their life, right? You save billions a year in healthcare costs. So, and I mean, not only from this perspective it makes sense, it also makes sense because when people get older and they stay healthy while they are old, they can work longer, they can invest more in education, older population is less criminal. I mean, almost all the crime and violence is done by males between 17 and 35, right? So, I mean, it has a lot of beneficial effects, and this is also something that we have to carry into the politics, right? Cool. We have to I mean, education is a big part of it. Educating policymakers, educating institutes, that's very important.
Yeah, how, like, the only question, I also agree that it should exist, that's why I decided to do it, but like what we struggle with is to find a sustainable business model beyond consulting and grants. Like what do you have any ideas in mind that would help us a lot?
I mean, consulting and grants would also be the first things that I would have in mind. So, I mean, you can also try just to raise money from, just from billionaires who are interested in this space, philanthropists. I mean, they also spend a lot of money for academic institutions. Why wouldn't they spend money on you? They can have, like, I don't know, you can have their name like on, I don't know. Usually, like, institutes are named after these billionaires. Maybe you can do something similar. And other than that, donations, right?
Cool. Anyone else?
How do you decide, or how do you have access actually to the companies that are emerging in the field and get the first outlook on them and analyze them, and you're like, I'm deciding I'm going with this one?
I mean, at Apollo we have like a dedicated person, Alexandra Bause, who's keeping in touch with all the research institutes working on these topics, like Buck Institute, Salk Institute, Harvard Labs, and all the other networks. So she's visiting them on a regular basis. She's very often seeing technologies before they are ready for commercialization, which is very important. Then we visit all the conferences in the space. We talk to a lot of VCs, so if they see longevity deals, they would also forward them to us, also because they want to get an opinion. They know that we have a lot of knowledge there. And then we're also writing articles, doing a lot of PR. And I think we are also well known because we were one of the first ones who were investing in that space. And people know that we can support on an operational level, right? So we have very different sources of deal flow. And I think you need to have different sources because it's like when you hire people, you need to make the pipeline very, very broad in the beginning. You have to see a lot of technologies, also as a benchmark to get at the end a very good deal quality. Yeah. Thank you.